I have been playing Absolum, and Absolum is a very interesting concept. Obviously, roguelikes and roguelites are all the rage right now, and Absolum is that, but it is that in a brawler, like a side-scrolling brawler beat 'em up style experience. And so, yeah, the real interesting thing about Absolum is that there are several. Right, it's got the plot behind it is that it's essentially you're sort of set in almost like a D&D style world. Right, there's goblins, there's swordsmen, there's elves, there's dwarves, the typical fantasy world. Um, the world's sort of been broken apart, and there's all these different factions are at war, and magic has been sort of outlawed, forbidden. We can use magic, and thereby we're a rebel. We can kind of choose. I think the game lets you choose between two initially, and I'll get to those in a little bit. But yeah, we can use magic. So we're trying to stop this guy, the Sun King, who's trying to collect power and send the world into even further cataclysm and all that kind of craziness. And do more damage. And we're aligned with Uchawi, I think is her name. She's a goddess. She's kind of fighting to save the world. And that's where the loop kind of comes in, right? As we die, she resurrects us on our runs. And you can kind of see it in the video here. So there, it is a side-scrolling beat 'em up, right? And it has that that Hades style of branching paths and storytelling that that roguelikes like to do, but I think Absalom does a good job of it, of getting more towards the kind of world development and plot aspect. And so what I mean by that is there are taverns, there are the map is sort of persistent. It's sort of I don't say static, but it doesn't necessarily change. So you have paths and you can explore different paths, but a lot of times you'll go to some of the same places 2 or 3 times, during, in some subsequent runs. That can get a little wearying sometimes because you do start to see some of the same areas over and over again. But because it's meant to be this large actual world with an actual plot behind all the different areas, and the fact that they look absolutely gorgeous, I think it's okay from my standpoint when I'm playing it, because I didn't mind it as much seeing some of these locations over and over again. It just kind of felt like I was adventuring and making my death and rebirth purposeful. One thing I don't love in a typical roguelike is when I do die and get resurrected and I have to relearn all new paths all over again. Doesn't always it isn't always the best, because you can kind of get comfortable and then all of a sudden the next path you take, it's a completely different setup and wipes the world clean. So having sort of that these definite hand created, curated paths, I think is or locations is nice. And it also helps that the art is so freaking amazing. Like, I love this style. It has that I mentioned D&D. It has that 1980s Dungeons and Dragons animation style to it. So you can kind of see the map there.
Kind of see that,
and it's hand drawn. In fact, as I was playing the game, it felt like doodles in my notebook, like that style of D&D type of character design, ship design, world design, enemy design. It's like, oh, I think I probably sketched some of this stuff in junior high or high school, chemistry class or whatever. It's like I love the art style. I love the inking. There's definitely sort of a comic book feel to some of this stuff. I love the line work. I love the animation is actually very smooth, but it's purposefully looks like it's got like 10 frames per second on the character. Like, there's shots where you'll see like a cape. The cape will have sort of this very animation style movement of frames and cells, but you're actually moving in 60 FPS as you're coming across the screen. You just have some interesting things with the animation taking place. So I love that aspect of it. Beautiful animation, beautiful audio, great soundtrack. I will say though, because it's aligned to a beat 'em up, much like in that genre, the story isn't super interesting, but it is kind of made up for it with again great character design. Um, uh, and we have those two choices. You start with like an elf named Galandra and a dwarf named Carl. You get a couple more later on. Um, and then we come up to enemies. We can do melee attacks. We can do ranged attacks depending on what character we have. We can gain experience and gems, and you open up more moves, and we can strengthen our moves. And you can like combos are a huge part of this, which harkens back to the beat 'em up genre, right? You combos are what that genre and what brawlers are all about. You're linking attacks and you're linking doing stuff from proximity, whether it's close, whether it's distance, whether you got like a finisher move. And this game has a lot of cool finishers, a lot of ways to augment your attacks and combos. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. It was really cool. The tree isn't super deep to improve stuff, but I think because of the nature of the game as a brawler, I think it's kind of okay.
Yeah.
I love that action. Uh, I love beating up the enemies. I started off with Galandra. You can actually switch back and forth depending on when you get to like these sort of fire pit areas. I love Galandra. She has this awesome sword that you can start with sort of a distance attack. And then you can upgrade it to like this explosive swipe, and you can get wind attacks in there, and stuff open up even more. Carl is like he's this dwarf that has like this big old dwarven gun, which is wild because dwarves usually consider with axes, right? So,
Guns are good.
yeah, exactly. We can dodge and parry and deflect projectiles. It has a lot of that brawler stuff in there, but with this cool art style, very neat setting, great soundtrack, and then the roguelike aspect of it. And again, I mentioned it has a persistent map because there are specific like it's not just one long run. Like even the game will call it runs. You're going on runs, and you can reset
Oh
the
yeah.
run. Like run is written in there, but there are actually like quests, and there's side quests and mini quests and major quests.
Hey,
Um,
side quest.
Side quests. And I thought that was actually really kind of interesting because you'll typically get those in sort of hub worlds where your quest will be open defeat a certain amount of enemies type of quest. But no, in one of the first quests you get in this game is that there's a bridge out in one area, and your goal is to speak to the kind of the goblin chief to get them to repair the bridge, because then that will open up the rest of another section of the map, your movement around the map. Well, the only way to do that is you have to actually get to them first, get to the goblin chief first, and you're gonna die a lot getting over to them. And it's funny because the people are like, "Oh, it's you again. You're back. I thought I just saw you walk by," type of stuff. But you're getting resurrected and you're building up your character. Um, you do kind of lose some of your really cool attacks. So you do have to start to build them up all over again. It's a bit like when you're almost playing a shoot 'em up, a shmup, where if you lose your shots, your cool weapon, you have to build it all the way back up. And it kind of happens with this. So there, some of the stuff you'd want to keep in between runs, you don't necessarily have. But that idea of having these like secondary quests and tertiary quests, I think is really cool because it's pushing me forward. It's not just a run where I'm beating up as much as I can and try to get as far as I can. There's actually little hooks that go and pull me forward. And I really like that. I like opening up all those paths. I appreciate that I'm not having to relearn every new path
Yeah.
when I'm playing it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Um it was surprising how well the idea of a beat 'em up roguelike works. And I know there have been sort of versions of this within beat 'em ups, like little modes within other beat 'em up games, but actually building a full game around this and having a good meaty story, um, and cool character design, and I think it all works out really well. And I'm playing on the Steam Deck, which I love, and it's functioning fantastic on the Steam Deck. I You can play multiplayer, you can play online with other folks, which is really cool. I want to play this on my Switch as well. I think it's out for the Switch. I think portable is a terrific way to play this game. So yeah, Absolum, really cool. And I haven't finished it, but I've opened up like the entirety of this map, and it's just so cool because there are certain moments in this you're like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't expect to go there. I didn't expect to experience this type of thing in this kind of a game. Really surprising, cool things that end up happening, and the way they're kind of approaching some of the stuff that you'd find in a roguelike, but really doing that beat 'em up spin is really cool. So yeah, I very surprised by this game. Kind of came out of nowhere. Not a lot of people are talking about it, but I think they should because this is one of those games that I think nails the roguelike and beat 'em up genre to a T. And I think it's worth checking out if you like either of those. So yeah, very cool. Absolum.
Yeah, looks cool.